Here is a testimonial for the highest paid part-time job in the world from Katrina Alexander.
So I'm approaching 3 years in this academy. All of my accounts have increased trading, investments, business, and personal accounts. This academy can produce results in all areas of your life when you do the work. Yes, you have to work on your psychology and mindset to get the results.
What's going on, y'all? This is David W. Williams, also known as the Retail Trader. Appreciate everybody for coming through. Know we getting ready to go into a holiday weekend. A lot of people going to have tomorrow off. Some won't. It is what it is, but we are getting ready to go into a holiday weekend, which for most people going to be Easter weekend. For other people, I think it was Passover. And then for other people, it's not going to be anything, and that's cool too, right? So I appreciate everybody for coming through. Thursday live stream, kind of out of the ordinary, a little bit of an impromptu, but I wanted to go ahead and get out this content because we're going to get a little bit deeper into this type of content as the year goes on. And so what we're going to talk about, the cost of your attention, right, is correlated to your economic segregation. Okay. And what I'm going to do in this particular video is I'm going to hold you accountable for a lot of the things that you've been involved in. And a lot of y'all not going to like it and you're going to blow up. And I would encourage you to, you still got another, let's say 6, 7, 8 months left in the year. And you could go get somewhere else and whatever y'all got going on over there, I hope it works out for you. But what you're not going to be able to say is nobody didn't tell you, right? And you're not going to say nobody did not present the situation and present the argument to you. And many of us, right, we haven't gotten to a level of our life to where we can be given instructions to and we can be coached. We want to coach and we want to give instructions, but we don't want to be coached and we don't want to be given instructions. We want to rebuke, but we don't want to get rebuked, right? We want to correct, but we don't want to get corrected. And I think for a lot of people, that's going to be the next level that they're going to have to get to really get to the level of development that really can make them very powerful, right? Not only for themselves, but for the people around them. So what we're going to talk about is the cost of your attention is correlated to your economic segregation, right? And what we're going to kind of get into is that what value do you put on what you're engaged in, right? And I want to kind of ask you a question. Let's say from a food standpoint, do you eat any piece of food that somebody puts in front of you, right? If you say that you're on a low salt diet and people put stuff in front of you that got salt, do you eat it? I'm not saying you can't maybe taste it, but do you eat it? And then if you do you eat it every day? Can somebody just put any food in front of you and you're going to eat it, right? Not because you're hungry, just because they put it in front of you, right? And so these are some of the things that you got to really start looking at yourself and looking at your own behavior, because economic segregation is real. And I've talked about it on this channel. I'm going to keep talking about it because it's real. What you're looking at on the right-hand side of this particular slide, right, was a housing community built in Italy 40, 50, 60 years ago, right? And it was really designed to house people, okay? That's like 14 stories. I don't know how you would expect anybody to walk up all those flights. I don't think there was an elevator in there. Could be, I don't know. I never lived there. And what I want you to understand is that a lot of the poverty and the things that we're going to go into this year, it exists all over the world, right? It doesn't just exist inside the United States. So we're going to have a U.S. focus, but it really exists all over the world. This picture is from Italy, right? It's in Naples. And I'm telling you that to tell you this, a lot of us have a very closed off view of how the rest of the world works. And a lot of times the commentary and the messages that we're creating are based on an American standard of living. And we really don't understand how the rest of the world works, right? The majority of people in the world are poor for a lot of different reasons, but they're poor. So the majority of Europe, the majority of white people in Europe, they're poor. They're not rich. But in America, we have this narrative that white people got money and they're of a higher class. But the majority of white people in Europe are poor. That's a fact. They've always been poor and they always going to be poor until they change some of their systems, right? So I want you to understand that economic segregation is real. It's not going to decline. It's only going to increase. And one of the reasons why I do a lot of what I do is because I want to give you an opportunity to get on the other side of that wall, right? Because they are going to build a wall. And a lot of you are, in my opinion, based on me communicating with you, having exposure to you, you're caught up in the things that are really not going to move the needle as to what is actually going to take place in this world, right? I'm not a conspiracy theorist journalist, so I don't have to produce a conspiracy theory every 3 days to support a journalism platform. I don't have to create conspiracy theory content to support a YouTube channel. I don't have to do that because that's not my lane. Okay. But I want you to understand something. A lot of you are preparing for a world that is not going to exist, but you're not preparing for the actual world that is going to actually exist, because economic segregation is real, right? And what America did for a very, very short amount of time is it tried to flatten a lot of the society out. It tried to expand the middle class, right, to give more people more opportunity. We're going to see a lot of that roll back, and it's going to look like the rest of the world. And the rest of the world looks like, if you're not born with money, don't worry about it. You're never going to get any. That's how the majority of the world looks, regardless of the color of the skin of the people that it is, regardless of their religion, ethnicity. If you go to Thailand and you're not born with money in Thailand, the likelihood of you ever coming into some money, it doesn't exist. You got maybe a 1 in 1 million chance. That's why they're so thirsty to get Americans over there, because you're their best opportunity for them to have something. Same thing in the Philippines, same thing in parts of Africa, same thing in majority of Europe. Right? Central and South America, Dominican Republic. You born poor in the DR. If you can't play baseball, how you ever going to get you some money? Right? There is no go loan or tech job. It doesn't exist. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? So what we've done in America is we've made certain lifestyles and certain class experiences be somewhat comfortable compared to the rest of the world. Because if you had to live in these type of environments, you would know 100% I don't have nothing going for myself economically. And then either you would adjust to it and just say, hey, this is how I'm going to live, or you would do something about it. In America, you could not have any money and still have running water, electricity, have plumbing inside your house, but you don't have $1,000 you can go touch. Right? In other parts of the world, the economic situation is so stark, you know you're poor. There's no doubt in your mind that you're poor. You know it. Right? And so I'm telling you this is because as they start to continue to build these walls, right, many of you, because of a lot of really, really good conditioning, right, are not going to be able to get to the other side of the wall. Right? That's just the reality of the situation. I know a guy that taught me the markets. He says by 2030, if people are poor by 2030, they can hang it up. They're never going to get no money. That's his belief set. Now, he believed that a long time ago. So he worked extremely hard to make sure him and his family was set up for that financially. Because he believes by 2030, if you ain't got a certain amount of money by 2030, don't worry about it. You ain't never going to get it. Because that's where they're going with this economy. And he told me, and I'm going to say this, and people said I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. He told me, teach one person and then go start trying to figure out how to build wealth with you and your family. He said, don't worry about the rest of the people, because he says the programming in America is so efficient that most people would never get it. That's how good the programming is. Right? And I think a lot of people don't realize how well they've been programmed by the society. They just don't realize it. Right? And so when you encounter them, they're repeating a program. Right? They're not really repeating what they really think about something. They're just repeating a program. And then when you actually ask them, like, explain what you really mean about that, they can't, because the program hasn't allowed them. It's very similar to a computer program. If you don't put the information inside the computer can never give it back to you. The computer can only repeat what's already inside his head. What's already inside the program. It can't give you anything else. So what I want you to understand is that many people are programmed and they don't know how to do anything except the program. And the program is not designed for you to get outside of these particular situations. It's not designed for you to escape economic segregation. It's designed to you figure out, how comfortable can I get in these situations? What's my best level of comfort? So what a lot of people going to do with this 3-day weekend, they just going to party for 3 days. It's an extra day off to party, turn up, yada, 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 because that's their program. How can I be a bigger consumer than I was 2 weeks ago because I only had 2 days off as opposed to 3? That's their program. Right? That's the reality of the situation. So many people will tell you the way this system is set up is this. If you figure it out, you're supposed to now just go do your own thing, and you're supposed to leverage the fact that you figured it out on the people that haven't figured it out. That's how this system is set up to work. It's not set up to work the way if you figured it out, you try to help the people around you figure it out too. It's not set up that way. Or if you get selected by the society to be successful, you're supposed to leverage that selection to bring the money to you, but never really empower the people around you. That's why you don't see groups of these people doing these things. They don't have no power group like that, because that's not the system that we're in. Right? And it's because so many people have accepted that program, right? They don't even know this stuff was going on. Right? But I live in the metro area, and I've seen them consistently gentrify the metro and push low-income people out of there. And it's going to approach a point to where if you don't make $100,000 a year, which most people don't make, you will not be able to live inside the actual perimeter of Atlanta, which is everything inside 285. There may be some small sections because they need people to do service work and things of that nature. But let's say 85 to 95% of that area, you will not be able to live there. You won't be able to afford it because if you don't make 100 grand, which most people don't make in the South, you're not going to be able to live there. The real estate value is going to be too high. Right? So then you're going to get pushed farther and farther and farther out. And with this scenario right here, what you see with these type of communities is they're isolated from the rest of the society. So they put these particular housing situations way on the outskirts of the city. And you just live out there. You get no resources. You get no services. You call the police. It takes 5 hours. You call police. You call the fire. It takes 5 hours. They don't care about you. They just want you away from everybody else. And they only police you coming in. They don't police your area. So you can sit out there and do whatever you want to do. But you just can't leave and come into other people's areas. So you get segregated like that, right? That's the future for a lot of people. Now, you'll still have internet, still have social media, right? See, you'll still, it's because you still got to run your program. So the program is somebody can spend 3 hours giving you data, and you think that's the same as some dude on YouTube just talking to a microphone about women. You can't see you can't differentiate. You can't see the difference between it. That's your program. So you see them as having the same value. So when they put you out there in the middle of nowhere, right? And you have intermittent electricity and you have plumbing that doesn't hardly work. Your water supply is contaminated, right? And then your area gets taken over by criminal syndicates, right? Because they got the organization, they got the structure. You don't have nothing. You're an individual by yourself. And you have to deal with that. You'll still have social media. You'll still have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever the new variant of that is coming in the next few years. You'll have all of that, right? You'll still have pornography. You'll still have fast food. You'll still have cigarettes, alcohol. You'll make sure you're going to get that, right? But you can't go anywhere. And there will be no trajectory for your family to improve itself. Let me tell you something real quick before we get into the market. I didn't want to keep this too long. So I work out. Where I work out is a lot of like Mexican Americans, right? And over the past few years, it's really become a lot deeper with Mexican Americans where I stay at in the metro. So I'm in the gym and I'm seeing these really young Mexican American chicks. They might be, let's say 21, 22 years old, real young, right? And I'm realizing that the opportunity for them to change their life here is 900% better than what it was if they was to stay in Mexico. Because in Mexico, if you're born poor, you're going to die poor. There is no upward mobility. There are no programs for you to get out of poverty, right? There is no education programs for women with children. You're born poor, you're going to die there. So coming to the United States is the best opportunity for them to change the trajectory of their family, right? Because that's how the world works. America is an experiment to where you can get lucky and get rich in America. Right? Jake Paul got lucky and then he figured out how to build a business. He got lucky. Other parts of the world, there is no getting lucky like that. Right? It just doesn't work. The little Filipino dude that works in that does entertainment. Y'all know who I'm talking about, the singer. Right? He don't make that kind of money he made in the United States and the Philippines. He had to come to the US to get big like that. Because the Philippines doesn't have vehicles and have opportunities for him to get this successful. He's really a karaoke singer. But they was able to bring him to America and it worked. I don't know if he was born here, but he's a Filipino by ethnicity. He doesn't get successful like that in the Philippines. He has to do that in America because the mechanism don't exist in the Philippines for him to become this successful. Right? But what they're doing in America is they're closing the door. And every year the door is going to get the little space in that door is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller till they finally close it. And once it's closed, it's going to be closed. There is not going to be a revolution to open that door back up. I'm telling you, that's not going to happen. These people, they're lying to you. It's not going to happen. They're going to close that door and they're going to put gunmen on both sides of that door and there ain't going to be no opening that door. And if you're not on a certain side of that door, you're going to be on the other side of that door for the rest of your life. And your children are going to be on the other side of that door for the rest of their life and their children. And that's just how it's going to work. Right? And so I'm telling you this to try to give you warning. This is where they're pushing this particular society. It don't matter who's president. None of that matters. This thing in America was an experiment of, can we create upward mobility for the majority of our population? Can we go create a middle class? They're done with that experiment. They're finna go back to a fixed class to where if you're born poor, you're gonna die poor, right? That's how, because that's how the rest of the world looks, regardless of the country that you live in, ethnicity. It is very hard to get to a certain level in most places unless you're like a sports superstar. If you don't already have it, if somebody in your family don't already have it. I know people in Haiti, they told me, if your family in Haiti don't have a business, you don't have anything to do. This society doesn't produce jobs. It's 5 or 6 families that run all of Haiti. They make all the money. Everybody else is just poor. And half of those families not even black. They're not even Haitians. Some of them is Jews, tell the truth. Same thing in Jamaica. It's a few families, they run Jamaica, right? See what I'm saying? So we know about the Jamaican track stars. We don't know about the everyday people in Jamaica, how they support themselves, right? So what I want you to understand is that a lot of these opportunities are going to get closed off. And if you don't really break this program of, well, I make 40, 50,000 a year, but as long, here's the first model. I'll make $40,000, $50,000 a year, but the person that I'm romantically involved with, they're supposed to make my life better. That's the first program. The second program is I'll make 40, 50,000 a year, but as long as I got sex, drugs, alcohol, pornography, and I can be a consumer and I got credit lines open, I'm cool because I can live the life I want to live, right? The third program is that, well, I don't care about nothing. This yada, 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 whatever. God don't want me to have no kind of economic prosperity. And I'm not a prosperity preacher, but God don't want me to have no kind of economic prosperity. So I'm not going to worry about it. That's the third program. You can play them games with these folks. But what I'm telling you is that you're going to reach a point to where you're going to be stuck where you at. And it will take a miracle of God to change your life. But you'll notice it hasn't happened for the majority of the world. So you must going to be the special case. Because we can go to other parts of the world and, people in Dominican Republic, Haitians in Dominican Republic, they're not picking sugarcane because they want to, right? They picking sugarcane because they got to, and they're dirt poor picking sugarcane. But if they don't do that, they won't have anything, right? Because people in Haiti is eating mud pies to support themselves. Like, this is real life out here. So let's get into the presentation because I don't want to be too long, but I want you to understand the seriousness of this because I'm going to get into why you may be taking some stuff serious or you may not be taking anything serious, and why you're valuing certain stuff, but you're not valuing anything. And I'm telling you, you only got a certain amount of time before you know what, the door gonna close and you just gonna be where you at. And you can still have these little conversations that you haven't, but it ain't gonna mean nothing anymore. Right? Because if you really roll back the clock for America, for a very long time in America, if you were born poor, you died poor. There was no upward mobility for anybody, whether you was white, black, green, or purple. They had to create government policy to create a white middle class. They don't tell you that, though, but it's in the documentation. I know about the New Deal, right? This country was extremely poverty-stricken for the majority of the population, and you had a few rich landowners out there in the Southwest, right? And then you have some rich business people in New York, and that was it. Everybody else is broke, flat broke. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? Because I'm from the state of Florida. Florida was nothing. Right, till they built the railroad to go from St. Augustine down to Miami. That's what built Florida. Before that, Florida was nothing but swamp. Right? It was Seminole Indians and swamp. Then nobody want to be in Florida. It was nothing to do. So what I'm trying to tell you is that they created programs to improve economic mobility for people, right? To allow people to have some type of class flexibility where you could be born here and move up into another level. That is going to disappear. They're going to lock all of that up. And if you aren't already in a certain position and have the ability to move, it's going to be over for you. Okay, let's get into it. Because like I said, I don't want to be long-winded, but I want you to understand because you're not going to be able to say nobody didn't tell you, right? The cost of your attention is correlated to your economic segregation. What are you paying to pay attention? That's the most important thing. You're paying attention to this right now. What are you paying to pay attention to it? What does it cost you? Right? So when you're paying attention to things in your environment, media, content, people, right? But let's go into the content side because that's really what dominates society right now. We live in a content-driven environment. What does it cost you? What are you paying to pay attention to it? You should be able to say it. Tell me. Put it in the chat. What are you paying to pay attention to stuff? Right? It should be obvious. Now, I know the program's going to tell you, don't say nothing. That's the program. You've been listening to that program so long, you think that program is you. That's the first problem, right? You've been listening to that program in your head so long, you think that program is your own thoughts. It's not. It's a program. Those are not your thoughts, right? But that program is so efficient, it'll mimic you and make you think the program is you. So you do whatever the program tell you to do. That's how good this program works. What are you paying to pay attention, right? That's the first question. You got an internet bill cost, okay? What's the Netflix cost? What is it? I don't know. I don't have Netflix. Any social media platform, what does it cost for you to utilize that social media platform, right? I don't know all of them. It's a million of them. How much it costs you to use YouTube, right? What is the cost of this particular video? So what is the cost to pay attention? What does it cost you, right? What do you have to pay to be able to be in this particular environment where you're consuming this content? You go on TikTok. What does TikTok cost you to use? You go on Facebook. What does it cost you? You go on Instagram. What does it cost you? Any platform. What does it cost you to utilize Netflix? Then what is your overall internet bill cost? Cheap internet has allowed people to consume content with diminishing cost every year. Some of y'all too young to remember. I'm going to give you like a flashback to how the world used to work, right? You used to have 5 or 6 basic TV channels, right? Then they came up with something called cable. So now you got to pay to watch these extra TV channels. I came up on the 5 or 6 TV channels. My parents say, we're not going to pay for cable. So I came up on the basic channels, right? Okay. So all I could watch was basic TV. Okay. Now they come up with the cable. So now you pay X amount a month. I remember it was like 50, then it kept going up. And I remember at one time it was like 600 cable channels, right? We had 600 channels. We thought that was a lot of channels. Then you had other people, they had the satellite outside their home. They bought the satellite. They had 1 million channels because you can get channels from other parts of the world with satellite. Some people did that if they had the yard space, right? I don't know if y'all know about that. We going way back to the day with the big satellites in people's yards. I ain't talking about the Dish Network TV satellite. I'm talking about they had a low key, like almost like a TV station satellite in their house. Okay. Then we now move to the internet, where if you pay $50 a month, $100 a month, right? You now got 1 million channels. You go on YouTube, especially if you're bilingual, you got endless content. If you can speak 2 languages, you got endless content on YouTube. Because people don't know there's a Latino YouTube, there's a French YouTube, right? There's a Japanese YouTube, right? There's an Indonesian YouTube, okay? There's all these different YouTube universes based on what language you speak. So we know about the US YouTube, right? But what we don't go into is the other YouTube lanes based on different languages. So if you just paying between $50 and $100 a month, you got endless content, and it gets cheaper and cheaper every year for you to get access to that content. So just because you got internet service, just because you got mobile phone service, you now got endless content. For what? My Metro PCS bill is $50 a month. On that phone, I got endless content. I could just content, right? Never run out of something to look at, right? So it doesn't cost me a lot to access this content. The cost goes down year after year after year after year after year, right? Because cell phones used to be expensive. They figured out how to make cell phones cheap, right? Some of y'all old enough to remember cell phones used to be expensive. Now you got diminishing marginal utility. We already did a class on that. Many people have not seen it because we're going into what we already talked about, the cost for you to access the content. So the more content that you consume, the less value it has to you because you keep consuming it. So when I was coming up, right, you had 5 or 6 channels on regular television. That was all I had. So when a show came on TV, it was a big deal to me. A Friday night show, a Saturday night show. That was a big deal to me. Why? Because that's all I was going to get to see. Right? When the Bulls came on regular television, right, on the NBA game, that was a big deal to me because why? We ain't have WGN that carried Bulls games. So I only got to see Mike play on TV a certain amount of times per year. That was a big deal to me. Some of y'all going to be too young to remember when Mike, and I'm talking about the other Mike, because it's 2 Mikes. You got Michael Jordan and then you got Michael Jackson. When Mike did something like the American Music Awards or he did something like the Grammys, people went crazy because why? you got to see Mike maybe twice a year. Right? It wasn't like now where anytime you cut on the internet, you get to look at Beyonce. Man, you got to see Mike twice a year. That's it. Right? Mike went in your face like that. He chilling. He got the llamas in the theme park. He doing that other stuff. Mike chilling though. See what I'm saying? So any big time entertainer, if they didn't have a project out, you didn't see him. So when you did get to see him, it was a big deal. So now we got, they always in your face. They always in your face. They always in your face. So the utility of this particular product, it becomes lower and lower and lower to you. So to get the same type of sensation, what do you got to do? You now got to you got to consume more. It's almost like you're a drug addict, right? So let me ask you a question. If you had to pay 25 cents per YouTube video to watch, would you stay or go to another free platform? Right? Because the YouTube model is really a predatory model, right? The YouTube model is based on, we gonna make the content creators make content for free with the hope that they can monetize it, because we want to bring in a big audience so we can sell their audience to advertisers, right? But if we flip it and say, if you had to pay minimum 25 cents per YouTube video, would you stay or go to another platform? Right? Because we live in a world now where all this content, the consumer expects the content to be free. And they decide if they want to pay for it. Right? I came up in the era where the only free content was the radio and them 5 channels on television. You pay for everything else. You paid to go to the movies. You paid to get cable. Everything else was for pay. So if you wanted to see certain type of, you had to pay for it. It wasn't going to be no, we just going to give it to you for free. You decide if you're going to pay for it. I'm not saying that to solicit a donation. I'm trying to tell you, these are the models that they have been created. And it's all part of a larger plot to just make people apathetic, to make people satisfied with their life. Because let me explain something to you. We in America, right? We got roads, we got highways, we got modern infrastructure, we got modern supply lines. We have all these modern things that we built up over the years, okay? Power, electricity, all this stuff is consistent. I live in the city. We never have brownouts. We rarely have blackouts. It just doesn't happen. If we do get a blackout or brownout, they had that thing fixed in a few hours, right? I wouldn't run time. They fixed our stuff on Christmas Eve. Power went out on Christmas Eve because, everybody running heat. They came out and fixed it Christmas Eve, right? That's how efficient our systems are in America. Now, understand that, okay? Let's go to Uganda in Africa, okay? They don't have the type of systems that we have. They don't have the effective systems and the processes and the infrastructure that we have. But you know what they do have? They got the same social media. See? So they're consuming the same social media, right? At the same cost structures that we have, because there was a real big push to make sure that they got access to social media, right? But they have none of the stuff that we got from an infrastructure standpoint in a particular country. But you know what? They'll never build it, because why? They're going to get stuck on social media. You see what I'm saying? So it's going to retard their growth, because why? We had all this stuff before we got all this internet. They don't have any of it, but they got all the internet, right? And they don't need internet. They need to go build their country. They don't need to be on TikTok. They need to go build their country. They don't need to be worrying about this stuff. But they are now on all this stuff. So they're being influenced by what we doing on social media, and they trying to do what we do. And y'all don't even have highways. Y'all don't have plumbing, right? They don't need to pay attention to us in America. They need to go build their country. But they knew, let's give them this stuff, and they'll get caught up in that, and they'll never think about, we don't have basic services. We don't have basic healthcare. We don't have any of these basics, right? And we'll never go build it, because why? We playing on the internet. So these are things you got to ask yourself. If you had to pay that 25 cents per YouTube video, would you watch or stay go to another free platform? See, because let me explain something to you. If everybody paid 25 cents to watch this video, I guarantee you they would engage more. Because why? I paid to be here, right? I come out of the online space to where people would do webinars. Every webinar was a paid webinar. Wasn't no free webinars. That's the internet space I came out of. We talking about 2012, 2013, where they would do like Facebook webinars, but you would have to pay to get on it. Everything was paid, right? We are now in a different era where you don't even have to pay 25 cents to access content. It's all for free. And most people, if you put a 25-cent price tag on it, they go do something else, right? So the question you want to ask yourself, if a video watch is not worth 25%, why is it worth your time? Okay, I'm sorry, repeat the question. If you telling me that me watching a video is not worth 25 cents, why is it worth your time then? So now we're going back to your program. So you'll watch a video, but you'll tell me this video that I'm watching is not worth 25 cents. Then the question is, why is it worth your time to watch then? See how good this program works? You ain't even know it. This program works so good. Again, it's working in the background on you. You're not even aware. You can't even see it. So you're now consuming all this content, but you telling me the content not even worth 25 cents, but it's worth your time though. And you don't know that say a lot about you. But you ain't by yourself. You with millions of people. But you telling me the content not even worth 25 cents. It ain't even worth a fourth of a dollar. But it's worth your time though. So you'll consume all this content, but you won't pay for none of it. You'll just consume it. But it take your time to consume it though. So what's your time worth then? Okay, let's keep going. So capitalism has convinced you that your time is worth the price the system has set on your time and persuaded you to agree with the assessment. So the reason why a lot of y'all value your time the way you value it, because you had to agree to the assessment that capitalism put on your time. Capitalism told you what your time was worth. You never said that. See, you never said it. You just agreed with what they told you your time was worth. That's how this system works. So I know why a lot of y'all do what y'all do, because you have allowed another person to tell you what your time is worth and you just agreed to it, right? Because to come outside of that particular system take a lot of work. It take a lot of skills. It take a lot of self-confidence. It take a lot of stick to it with, right? I don't know if I said that word properly, right? Take a lot of consistency. Let me say that word for you to get outside of that system where this structure just tells you what your time is worth and you just say, okay, I agree with it. Right. So that's why when they have the one brother, I forgot his name, and people complain about how much money he make, that ain't your business how much money that man make. You got people making $30-40 million a year to play basketball. But y'all mad about a dude that's telling somebody, hey, if you want to get one-on-one consulting about how to grow your business online, it's $50,000. Y'all upset about that. Y'all not upset about somebody that's make $40 million to play basketball. Don't tell that man how much he worth. He worth what he worth. You ain't got to pay it. Whatever price he decide to set, that's his business. Because y'all mad that y'all took the deal on what your time was worth, but somebody else won't take that same deal. So what y'all try to do is get everybody around me have to agree on what time is worth. And if they don't agree with me, I'm going to try to get them to agree with me, or else I'm going to try to expel them from my environment. Right? I didn't think Dak Prescott was worth what Dallas paid him. He got it, though. I wouldn't have paid him that, but big up to him for him getting that money out of them. They paying everybody else. They need to pay him. See what I'm saying? So that's what you have to understand. You agree with the assessment they put on your time. The question is, how does that assessment help you accomplish your goals, right? This is the average salary in Houston, Texas. We're talking about median salary in Houston, Texas, $57,000 a year. I don't know why everybody moving to Houston. You ain't got no skills, right? That fall in the 50th percentile. That's from gusto.com, right? Now, a lot of people in Houston making a lot of money. But the median salary in Houston, $57,000, right? So even though everybody on the internet talking about they're making six figures and they touching this type of paper, yada, 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 that's cool, right? But the data doesn't always support that, okay? So we talk about $57,000, that's about $27 an hour. The question is, does this person making $27 an hour value their time above that number, right? Do you value your time above that number? So you feel like, hey, you know what? I should be making more than this because my time is worth more than this. But the goal of this particular system is to convince you that, hey, your time worth $27 an hour. And to get you to buy into that and then now fill your life full of cheap stuff. Cheap entertainment, cheap alcohol, cheap food, Porn is free now, free porn, which a lot of people is watching, quiet as kept, right? Free everything, because now you just got the internet. So you'll take the $27 an hour because why? I got all the rest of this stuff, low cost, free, got access to credit lines. So now you build your life out around that. I'm here to tell you that's not going to work too much longer though. Right? That's not going to work too much longer. It worked for a very long time. A lot of y'all was born too late. You could have really killed it like in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. A lot of this stuff is over with because I did an earlier video talking about how you used to be able to finesse the apartment application. Them days over with. If you ain't making the money, it's going to be impossible to get an apartment now because of artificial intelligence. Used to be you could finesse that. Can't finesse it no more. You see what I'm saying? So they're closing all these doors and these loopholes that we used for decades to live a decent life in America, even though we really didn't have the money. They closing all that off. And your life is going to resemble what life looked like for people in the majority of the world, where they just don't have anything, right? Where to get from Alpharetta to, let's say, Riverdale takes 3 hours because you got to take a bus because you don't own a car and there's no public transit. You just got to jump on a bus. That's what they got to do in the rest of the world. I knew a girl in Uganda, for her to get to her village, to the central part, I think it was Kampala? I forgot the name of it. Took her 3 hours to try to go to work every day, right? Because she didn't have a car and there's no real reliable transit back and forth because why? They haven't built it. So it was hard for her to get to work even if she could find a job, right? That's where this country's going. Because if y'all living way, way, way out of the central city, because that's what you can afford, right? Because economic segregation, but you find a job in the city, how you gonna get back and forth? And we've seen this in other parts of the country already, but it's going to become even more and more prevalent, right? So if you don't value your time above that number, you won't do anything to try to put yourself in a position to make more money. Let me go develop my skills. Let me go back to school, educate myself. Let me build out my network and try to figure out where I can get a better job. Let me do something on the side to bring some more money in. You cool making $27 an hour because why? It allows you to continue the lifestyle that you want to live. And everybody you know, because if you make $27 an hour, most people you know also make $27 an hour. And you live around people that also make $27 an hour. That's why these people can't fool me on the internet. I know how to look up zip code data. And I can use that zip code data to determine how much money people make in that particular area, right? And so most people live where they can afford, and then that becomes a network. Is those people that live around them. So if you make $27 an hour, most of the people around you make that same amount of money. It's not that you make $27 an hour and then you live in this neighborhood and everybody making $150 an hour. It don't work that way because how can you afford to live there? You don't make enough money unless you're living with somebody. Okay, let's keep going. My bad. So we know that when you do your job interview, right? What do they normally do when you do your job interview? Normally they tell you how much the job pay. And so either if you don't like it, you just don't take the job, right? Or they ask you, what are you looking to pay? And when you tell them, they tell you what the job pay. And if you don't like it, you just don't take the job, right? Most of y'all are not, from a skill standpoint and a confidence standpoint, have the ability to negotiate pay, right? Most jobs do a take it or leave it. This is what the job pay, take it or leave it. So you take it, right? So they've convinced you this is what your time is worth. Why? Because that's what you took. Because you scared to walk out that interview. And they say, hey, the job pay 27. Well, now I want to make 35. Well, that's cool. You ain't going to make that here, right? So you could take it or leave it. So they convince you that's what your time is worth. Right? That's how these type of relationships work. Okay, so everybody been through this. That's some of y'all. That's why you're making what you're making right now. So with cheap content, the more you watch, the less you value the content. So then what you do, you search for more cheap content. We talk about marginal decline in utility. We got a bunch of cheap content out here, right? We got Twitter full of a bunch of people just talking nonsense. The more you watch, the less you value the content because why? It's everywhere. So what you do, let me go search for some more cheap content. Then what happens? You get more cheap content. The more you watch, the less you value the content. You go search for some more cheap content. Same thing. The more you watch, the less you value the content. You go some more cheap content. It's just a cycle. It never stops. So that's what you want to really understand. Look at what you're consuming. How much did you pay to consume it? If you didn't pay anything to consume it, why is it worth your time? How come your life is full of just a bunch of free stuff? Everything is free or low cost. So what is it worth then if that's what you built your whole life on? Right? So these are questions you got to kind of ask yourself, because you got to realize I've built out a life, and I've allowed this system to build out a life to where I'm just being entertained for free 24/7. And all my entertainment, but also all my information is supposed to come to me for free. And who provides it to me for free or at the lowest price, that's who I deal with. I ain't paying for nothing. Okay? Now, let's switch it. When you put a price on what you do, how do people respond to it? Because this is what a lot of people come into resistance that got businesses. You've been giving people stuff for free all this time. Do you say, you know what? Let me put a price on it. And you know what happened to people? They go try to find some more free stuff because they've been getting it for free the whole time. So that's what I'm trying to tell you, is that you have to really start asking yourself, but also asking the people that you're dealing with, how come you want to get everything at low cost or for free? And then once somebody puts a price on it, you now want to try to figure out, well, how can I get it for free? So let me give an example. The reason why I put my videos in the membership is because they have been free for 5 years. So if for 5 years you didn't watch those videos, you was never going to watch them. Right? You was never going to watch those videos. So I had somebody tell me the other day, I'm trying to learn the markets, but they was talking on my last video. I say, dude, it's 200. No, I'm sorry. It's 400 options for beginners videos. 400. Right? So there's enough videos there for you to learn. You don't have to wait for the latest video. But if the content has no value to me, I don't believe in libraries of content, because content has no value to me, because I live in a world where content is everywhere. Right? So if the latest piece of content isn't titillating, right? If it's not going to give me a rush, if I don't think it's exciting, I don't pay attention to it, because why? I got a million other pieces of content to watch. I come out of an era where I grew up in a house with 6, 7 TV channels. So if you want to go watch TV and you ain't like what's on television, go read a book, go play sports, go outside. But it wasn't that, oh, I got so much TV content. If I don't like this, I watch this. If I don't like this, I watch that. That's not how I came up. Right? So we live in a world now to where people don't value stuff because their attitude is, I'll just go to the next situation for free. If YouTube say, hey, you know what? For you to watch videos on YouTube, you got to pay a penny. People will leave YouTube and go somewhere else just because they got to pay a penny. Because that's really how little they value YouTube content. You got to pay a penny though. So, you know, you got these platforms where you can load it up. You can create some type of payment source, load up YouTube, and every time you watch a video, you pay for it. Right? You pay for it. Most people would go somewhere else because why? I'm not going to pay for it. But as long as they can sit here and exchange nothing, they'll go back and forth. They'll do this, they'll do that, because why? I don't think I have given up anything to be here, because they don't value their time. Because why? Capitalism has told them that their time don't have no value, because you wouldn't accept those terms if you thought your time had value. You wouldn't accept that. You'll find something else to do with your life if you thought this was unacceptable. The fact that they get you to sit there and accept that, right, and get you to fight them over it instead of you doing something different that's going to make you some more money. They make you fight them over the money that you want to pay them, right? They know that you don't value your time. I've said this for years. All them people arguing with the police on the roadside stops, I say your time don't have no value, because I got too much stuff to do to argue with the police. I'm supposed to argue with a patrolman? You got to be crazy. So we taught black men that their time don't have no value because you're supposed to argue with a patrol cop, right? Like, you got to be crazy. I got too much to do in a 24-hour period to be arguing with a beat cop, right? But we have already programmed you that your time don't have no value. So are you supposed to sit on the side of the road and try to sit there and debate law with a cop? Man, I don't have no time for that. I got too much to do. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I want you to understand. This whole system is based on your time having very little to no value. The system has already determined that for you. It'll put a program and got you to accept that. So then you play it out in all your relations that your time has very little value. So if your time don't have no value, of course, somebody else's time don't have no value unless they're a celebrity. See, you'll pay celebrities, but you won't pay nobody else, right? So you'll pay Beyonce when she coming to the city. She pull $1 million+ out the city. But this black man who teach people how to make money in business, the fact that he got a $50,000 offer, you can't stand that because he's not a celebrity to you, right? So that's why you have so many people trying to make themselves into celebrities, because they know once y'all see me as a celebrity, y'all will pay me, right? So let me explain something to you. I make more money than the average person. I don't like to put it out there like that, but I do. I make more money than the average person in this metro area, okay? I could go rent me a nice apartment in Midtown with the balcony, the whole 9 yards, shoot content in there, right? I could go to Turo and get me a sports car. My car's 21 years old. I drive a 21-year-old car, okay? I could go to Turo, rent me a sports car, right? I live in the metro, right? It's plenty of chicks out here. Is part-time prostitutes. Go hire some of them part-time prostitutes to do content with me. And I guarantee you I'll make 3 times what I currently make off y'all right now today. Because why? Y'all see me as a celebrity. I guarantee you I could. I know how this game works. And I know how y'all is. I could make 3 times what I'm making off y'all right now today. Not adding no more value, not really teaching less, but just creating real good content with quote unquote luxury apartment, right? A Turo rented luxury car, right? And these part-time weak prostitutes out here in the metro who don't want to get to work, right? So they'll be waiting for me because they don't want to get to work. So they hoping I come and just say, hey, just give you some money to be in this little video with me. Y'all will pay me. Like y'all would pay me, right? I would triple my yearly income immediately doing that, right? Because now I'm a celebrity. So y'all feel comfortable cashing me out. The fact that I come as a homeboy, right? The fact that I come as an instructor or a teacher, y'all not comfortable paying me in that situation. That's the problem. So these people already know how you've been programmed. So they just play into your program. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? So you got to kind of ask yourself, why are you accepting these programs? Because this is America. There's way more money out here than that money. I know for a fact because they tried to pay me that little bit of money myself. And I'm not saying that, hey, you have an economic downturn, something happened in your life, and you got to start all over again. I've had to start all over again in life. But you know what I said? I ain't going to stay there because I know what these people got for me. And it's economic segregation. It's lack of resources. It's lack of education for my children. It's lack of everything. That's their plan because why? That's always been their plan. They don't have no new plan for us. They got the same old plan. So I'm not going to fall into their plan. I'm never going to agree with it ever. And I'm not going to agree with people that agree with it. I'm in disagreement with their plan. Right. And I'm going to stand on that till God take me up off this planet. OK, so that's what I want you to understand. This is real life out here. I know how to get more money out of y'all. It's too easy for me to do that. I live in the metro. Like I say, these chicks is weak. So they waiting for somebody to give them some money. I ain't even finna get into it, man. This stuff too easy, bro. It's too easy. Right. So let's go into the next one. Right. If you choose to donate your time or skills, why are you complaining? And I'm saying that, like, if you say, hey, you know what? I know somebody that I could be a blessing to, and I'm going to donate my expertise. I'm going to donate my skill set, right? Don't complain about it. So let me explain. Let me give you a quick story. I donated like 6 months of marketing work to this one lady that had a business because we were supposed to be doing this collective thing, right? So I donated 6 months of work for her to help her build out her business, build her whole marketing plan out the whole 9 yards, right? Well, the situation had never turned into nothing, right? I didn't get mad. I just moved on to the next situation. I'm not mad at that woman. It didn't work out. She was supposed to bring in grant money to support the business. The grants never came in. The situation fell apart. I moved on. Okay? I've helped other people out with what they got going on. That's what I wanted to do. I donate my time at Atlanta Food Bank. Been doing that for years, right? If me and the director of Atlanta Food Bank have a little bit of a tiff, it don't take away from the work I did, and I'm not mad at them. I like what they do because why? We got a lot of food insecurity in the state of Georgia, right? So if I donate my time to a situation, I don't turn around and complain that I donated my time. That's what I want to do. It came from the heart. But the reason why I put a price tag on what I do is because I spent a long time giving my time to people to help them with what they got. And then when I had a downturn, none of those same people came to help me. And I learned I got to put a price tag on what I got. If y'all would have met me years ago, everything I know about options, I just would have gave it to you because I would have wanted you to have it so you could come up out here. I just would have gave it to you, right? But I know that a lot of y'all don't respect it because why? It would have blended into all the rest of the free content that you're getting. So you wouldn't have respected it. So you wouldn't have did nothing with it, right? So that's what I want you to understand is that I do give a lot to people and I don't complain about what happened after the fact because why? I chose to give it. So if you say, hey, you know what? I normally charge, but I got a certain percentage of what I do and I'm going to give it out, man, just give it and keep pushing. Don't trip on it because a lot of people have given and the situation and go the way they want it to go. It ain't nothing to get upset about. That's life, right? But that's why I charge now because I gave away for so much. And when, like I said, when I came into an economic downturn, none of those people I gave to turned around and try to help me out, right? And that, so I learned you can't do that. I'm not mad at nobody. I just had to come back up, right? So that's what I want you to understand. Let's get to the next one, right? So we're going to talk about a lot this year. We're going to talk about class structure because it's something that we don't talk about, right? We do very minimal class analysis, okay? We're not going to go all the way into it right now because that's not the tone of the video. Most of the people that watch my content, they in the middle class managers, paper pushers level, and they in the working class, low skilled labor. Now we do got some people that's way above that. Miss Erica Williams, successful business owner on her way to new money elite, right? We do got some exceptions to the rule, but most of the people that watch my videos, middle class managers, paper pushers, are they working class, low skilled labor, right? If you're a criminal, don't tell me. I don't need to know that, right? Keep that to yourself, right? Because if you start talking to me like that on the internet, I think you're a police, okay? So those are two people, right? The two groups in the class structure, right? That normally watch my content. Okay. So you got to realize is that a lot of what you've been programmed to do is designed to keep you right there. That's the program. And what they're attempting to do is see the left side of this to lock that up, right? Because the people on the right side, they're what we call counterculture, right? The people on the left side, that's how the system was always supposed to work, right? And then they go on down. So the left side is the old school. The right side, when you see you got the break in the middle, the right side is really the new school, right? When you got the new money elite, successful business owners, independent professionals, right? Then goes down again, the middle class measures, paper pushers. But the left side is how it's supposed to always work, right? But then you got the right side, that's the new school, okay? Most people that watch my content, they in the two red boxes. Right now, I know they want to act like, everybody on the internet act like they just getting so much money, but the income data don't tell us that. Okay, so let's keep going. Here's the reality. You are the exit plan for the majority of celebrities and influencers that you follow online. That's the reality of the situation. The reason why I'm telling you that is because you don't have an exit plan, right? The majority of celebrities and the influencers that you follow online, you're their exit plan. You're the way that they're going to retire on the other side of the wall. Right? You are the way in which they're going to finance their children's college. It's you because you have promoted them. You've made these celebrities rich. You made these influencers rich. You did it because you value what they put out and you paid them. Right? You want the educators and the instructors to fight you for money, but the influencers and the celebrities, you just pay them. They ain't got to ask you twice. You just pay them. You happy to pay them. Right? So you're their exit plan. The question is, what's your exit plan? Right? Do you got a way out of this situation? Right? When you no longer can do what you can do, how you going to get out of this deal? That's the reality. So when you bring me somebody and you show me somebody, right? My question is, what's the fruit of what they're talking about? I don't care what they say. Who is an example of a success story based on what they talking, right? Because if not, they just talking. And I got fruit, and I don't like to brag, and I ain't trying to put on airs, but I actually have fruit of what I'm talking about. Not just, oh, you got good information. No, I got people, like I say, they can show the result of what I'm talking about on a balance sheet or a tax return. That's the level of game I got. And I could go all the way back to Lance, right? And I ain't trying to put people's name in the stranger. I could go back to Lance and let you, the game I got show up on the tax return or balance sheet. I've been had it like that. That's a gift I got. And I spend so much time trying to help other people. And I'm not saying this to complain. I'm just saying this to be real. Is that it take away from what I'm trying to do? Because again, the guy that taught me the market said, teach one person and worry about your family. Don't worry about the rest of these folks. Because they trapped in this system. They never going to get out. Right? And he told me that straight up. He said the majority of these people are never going to get out of this thing. They just not going to find their way out of it. So don't worry about them. Help one person and then worry about your family. And leave the rest of these folks alone. I felt convicted about that because I know what I know. Because I've always known that something was wrong with this setup. I didn't just get like that 5 years ago. I knew this as a child, that this thing wasn't set up right. Because it was always obvious to me. Most people can't see it. They see this grand conspiracy. They can't see what's right in front of them. It's weird to me, but that's just me. Everybody different. Right? They can describe this great. You had a dude tell me that the ex-LA mayor, if she might be the current LA mayor, was a Marxist and and the third. And I guarantee that dude can't tell you how to make $100 this month. But he know that this person is a Marxist and AOC is a millionaire off of this. That, he know all that, but I guarantee he can't tell you how to make an extra $100 this month. See what I'm saying? So he told me don't even deal with these folks. Right? Get your money and stack your bread and put your family in position. Leave these people alone. Right? Because I'm going to explain something to you real quick. This system has worked this way because of people, right? It's stayed consistent, not just in the United States, but all over the world, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, because of the way people are in their psychology, right? And it being so easy to placate most people and give them just the basics. And they say, you know what? I'm a working class, low skilled laborer. And as long as I got the basics, I'll stay right there the rest of my life. And I won't change. Because I'm not being really denied anything that I think I desire, because I'm not been programmed to desire anything more than just the basics. Okay, let's keep going. So the question I want to ask you, what's your economic goals for this year? What are your economic goals for this year? Right? You've been on this channel long enough. You know this is an economic channel. What's your economic goals for this year? So while you giving me those goals, I was able to hit one of my economic goals for this year. It took me 5 years to get there. Took 5 years. Didn't take 6 months, didn't take 90 days. It took 5 years of consistency, day in and day out. I had multiple members of my family pass away over the last 5 years, right? I had an economic downturn over the past 5 years, right? I had other issues personal over the past 5 years, right? And I just kept going because I had an economic goal I had to get to, because I had to change my economic trajectory. So it took 5 years to get there. Didn't take 90 days, right? Didn't take a year. Took 5 years of consistent work to hit this economic goal. And I just spoke to somebody the other week in a finance space, and they gave me some information. I had no idea that it was like that. Because why? I just was grinding. I was just grinding. Now, I know a lot of y'all people don't like that. Y'all don't like them kind of people, but I come from grinders. Every man in my family just work a lot. That's what I come from. My grandfathers had 3 jobs. My dad worked a lot. I just come from people that work a lot. So that's normal to me. So I knew I got a family member that got married. I knew what kind of man she was going to marry, because why? She was raised around men that work all the time, right? I wouldn't say we workaholics, but yeah, we going to work though. We going to do it. Everybody don't like that. They like, somebody they can play with, right? But where I'm from, men, we work. Might not make a lot of money, but we gonna work. My grandfathers didn't make a lot of money, but they all worked a lot though. They work, right? So people don't always want what they think they want, because a lot of people want play toys and stuff like that, but they don't really want somebody they don't want a grinder. Okay, so it took 5 years to get there, right? And now I'm just getting reports back. Okay, we at this, so now it's taking from where we currently at to the next stage. That's gonna take time, right? But because I just focused on that. So the question is, what are your economic goals for this year? The year almost halfway over, right? And once we get to the halfway point, the year's over. That's a fact, because we're going to roll to the second half of the year at light speed, right? That's how the year works. Once we get to the summer, the year over with, because once you hit October, that's the year. Because once we go into the holidays, everybody shut down anyway. Then we start over, do the same thing. So the question is, what's your economic goals for the year? How close are you hitting them? Because once we get to the middle part of this year, the year's over with. Right? Because y'all shut down on the holidays, right? I don't, but y'all do. So again, the program is so deep, nobody got economic goals for the year. That's how deep the program is. And they're going to segregate you with a bunch of other people that got no economic goals. And y'all all just going to be able to deal with each other, right? Because one thing I learned from really, really savvy people is businesses have goals every year that they're trying to hit. They got short-term goals. They got long-term goals that they're trying to hit every year. They not just waking up in the morning and doing business. They trying to hit goals. Okay, we're getting ready to go into an earnings season for these companies. These companies are going to tell you, hey, have we hit our goals? Netflix hit their goals. They did real well. I know why. Because everybody watching Netflix content. So Netflix hitting their numbers, right? So they hitting their goals. United Health did not hit their goals. They sold off real, real bad this morning. See what I'm saying? So if you don't have no goals, cool. They're going to put you around a bunch of other people that also got no economic goals. And y'all just going to deal with each other. Now, y'all going to have plenty of internet to complain about life, right? Y'all going to have plenty of TikTok to complain about what's wrong with the world. But when somebody sits you down and say, what's your economic goals for this year? You ain't going to better say nothing. And that's going to explain everything. That's going to explain everything. You ain't got no goals, right? So let's keep going. I want you to understand something. I watched the real estate dude. He came on early this morning, right? He's still running that drag about the real estate market going down. Okay, we're talking about economic segregation. And segregation means you're going to be segregated from a geographical standpoint, right? Okay. Asset values will not go down. They're only going to go up. If asset values go down, are you in position to buy assets at a discount? So ask yourself why a guy with a message that is 100% patently false about how these economic systems work has been given so much promotion on these algorithms. Ask yourself that. See what I'm talking about? And y'all paid this dude. He got the money not to buy whatever asset he want to buy because why? You paid him. You cashed him out, right? Asset values will not go down. They will only go up, okay? If asset values go down, are you in a position to buy assets at a discount? So if you're at that Houston $57,000 a year median for individual income, and Houston asset values go down for whatever reason, are you in position to buy assets at a discount? Is that one of your economic goals? Because organizations that have economic goals to buy assets at a discount, what they do is they figure out how to raise credit or raise capital when they don't need it. So when they do need it, they got it to go to. So when assets get discounted, then they go flood the market and they go consume up those assets. That's one of their goals. So if your goal is, what's the next TikTok trend? Your goal is, what's the next gossip site I can get linked up into? Your goal is the he say, she say. That's your goal, right? Your goal is the next faith-based influencer who don't know the Bible, right? That's your goal, is to get caught up with them, right? Your goal is the next thing. When asset values do go down, you ain't going to be in a position to do nothing because why? You haven't been storing up the things that you're going to need to go for that move. Because people that do that, they doing that when they don't need it. They storing it up when they don't need it. So when the assets sell off, we now go into the market and we go get those assets. So let's say I'm wrong, 100% wrong. The asset values do go down. Are you in position to go accumulate those assets? So it doesn't matter if the real estate market falls. If you don't have the money to go buy real estate when it falls, you still got to go buy it. I don't know if people think the real estate going to go down to $20,000 a house. It's not going to happen. See, so ask yourself why this man has been given. This dude was on mainstream financial media. Why they've allowed this person who nobody knows who this guy is, right, to get so big talking about the real estate market going to fall. They got a big old audience of people that believe that. They complain about the cost of assets, right? And so, again, they're going to be segregated economically because asset values will not go down. Part of where we're going in this particular world is asset values are not going to come down for the average American. That's very unfortunate, but it's a fact. You want to know why? Because that's how the rest of the world look. Let me explain something to you. The reason why Anglos came to this part of the world is because they couldn't get no land in Europe. The land was locked up by the monarchs. They couldn't get nothing. That's why they came over here and started land grabbing. The reason for the Revolutionary War was for land. It wasn't no darn terrorists and tea. That's false. Right? You got to know about, I forgot the name of that particular war between that Native American and the British. Start with a P. Right? This was about land. Okay? Now, I know you're not going to believe this is commentary because you don't read enough. Pontiac's Rebellion, big up to GC. The reason for Pontiac's Rebellion, that was about land. Pontiac's Rebellion caused a Revolutionary War. That's what caused it, was Pontiac's Rebellion. And the terms of that particular rebellion, that's what started revolution. Wasn't no tea terrorists. Come on, let's be serious. Right? It was about land. These people came over here to get land because they weren't going to get no land in Europe because the monarchs had all the land. Right? The way these systems work is they lock up land. And it would only go to a certain amount of people. They lock it up. Right? So in America, this is one of the few places where you actually could get you some property. Rest of the world, you can't get no property. You can rent, but you ain't gonna own nothing. Right? There is no private property ownership in China. You can rent, but you don't own nothing. The government, the Communist Party owns everything. That's not a communist thing. That's how the majority of the world work. The people at top own all the property. Right? Asset values will not go down. They will only go up. It's very unfortunate. That's just the way this thing is. Right? And if there is a 08 crisis again, which will not happen, and asset values do go down, are you ever going to be in position to buy assets at a discount? Will you have the income? Will you have the credit? Will you have the cash sitting up? Because if you don't have economic goals, I don't know how that's going to happen. You see what I'm trying to tell you? So then you will be given whatever they're going to give you so you can live on, and that's what you're going to have to take, and that's it. That's all you ever going to have. Because they got you to accept this stuff, and they entertain you on the way to it. And you do not want to know, and I don't want to tell you, because my economic analysis is very, very extreme, what's going to happen when they get you way out of the middle of nowhere and they isolate you from everybody. You don't want to know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. You don't want to know. It's not going to be what you think it's going to be. Right? So that's what I want you to understand. Asset values will not go down. They will not. That's not what's going to happen. Right? Let me show you something. This from propertyshark.com. Look at all these areas. Look at the downtown median sale price in 2023. Look at it in 2014. That's a 10-year change. You got Albuquerque, Chicago, Dallas, Denver, Kansas City, Los Angeles, Portland, San Diego. These 2023 numbers were really reported in 2024 because, we got to go through the year to report it. So these numbers reported in 2024. Chicago is a 10-year change downtown. That's the only one that's negative. Dallas, 10-year change, right? For the city. Went up 142%. Kansas City, 122. San Diego, 88. LA, 84. These asset values not going down. They're not. Right? So I don't know what you think is going on out here. They're going to lock all these assets up. And if you can't get in, you just can't get in. So you can keep watching TikTok and YouTube, and you can keep buying into a Bass in LA as a communist. If that entertains you, God bless you. And they're going to continue to accumulate what they've always been accumulating. The reason why these people came over here in the first place, because they couldn't get no assets. They did not come over here for religious freedom. They couldn't have nothing in Europe because the monarchs had everything. And they wasn't letting you have nothing. You just was going to work and you was going to die. And that's how that was going to work. You weren't going to have nothing. So you try your hand in America, right? And deal with them Native Americans, but you ain't going to have nothing over here. So that's why they took the chance of coming over here, because you weren't going to have nothing in Europe. Okay? That's the reality. Go read about Jamestown, right? So what I want you to understand is that these assets are going to continue to get consumed up. I had a score advisor when I lived in H-Town. She worked in energy. She was an energy accountant, right? So her helping me was easy because that little bit of business I was doing was nothing compared to energy. She was handling big accounts. She looked at my stuff, figure out what to do in 5 minutes. She told me during the pandemic, all she and her family did was accumulate assets. Because why? They was discounted. But why was they able to do that? Because they had the funds to do it. Because she come from a really, really successful family. out there in that Houston metro area. So during the pandemic, what did they do? They just started accumulating assets because why? They discounted. Everybody say that, but nobody really sits back and says, this is my plan. I know people, they stack their bread up, and when the market sell off by 10%, they buy what they want to buy. They don't do dollar cost averaging. They do a stack method. They stack their bread up. They stack their bread up. They stack their bread up, which means they can pay their bills. They got an emergency fund. They got all that taken care of. And on the back end, they got a whole nother account. They just stacking up money, stacking up money, stacking up money. And when the things sell off by a certain percentage, then they go in and buy what they want to buy. And they just keep doing it. Then they buy it. Then they do it again. They just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. They just keep doing that. But they got all their other financial obligations taken care of. Those are their financial goals. They're going to continue to accumulate assets. Assets are not coming down. Even if this market sells off because of all this calamity, trust me when I tell you, it's going to go back up. It's not going to stay down. It's going to go back up. So if it goes down and you can't get in because you don't have the ability to get in, it's not going to help you because why? It's going to go right back up. That's how this system works. Because what's going to happen? People going to come into the market, and if it's low enough, they're going to buy everything they can get their hands on. Because why? That's what they was waiting on. So what you're going to see is assets are going to get bid back up. And then now they're going to be higher than what they was before they sold off. And it's going to be 2030, and the SPY going to be at 9,000. And in 2025, it was at 6,000. And now you really can't get in. That's how this game works. These assets are not going down. They're not. So what I want you to understand is that this idea to where I can ignore this stuff and eventually the whole society is going to fall apart and I'm just going to come in because of this economic data piece and this economic data piece. I'm here to tell you this game don't work that way. These people are going to bid these assets up and they're going to be out of reach to most people and they're going to sit on them and you ain't never going to get a chance to touch them the rest of your life. You're going to be trying to buy like, I don't know the name of that particular word. The digital online real estate. That's what you're going to have to buy. I forgot what you call that. That's what's going to be accessible to you. Real estate, you ain't going to be able to touch it. Right? You ain't going to be able to get none. Because you haven't made these things your conversation. You haven't made them something that's interesting to you. You haven't made them that. It's just all this other stuff that they put out here to make sure that you don't focus on the things that's really going to help you and your family. And because you can get this kind of information for free, you don't value it because it's free. So you think, I'll just wait, I'll catch the next video. Still ain't did nothing. And I'm telling you, I hit a financial goal because I locked in for 5 years. And I didn't worry about a whole bunch of other stuff. And I prayed to God for my health. I prayed to God for my sanity. And I woke up every day and got to it. Because that's what I come from. Right? And anybody that know me, you ain't never know me for just laying around unless I'm sick. I'm going to be working on something. Right? So that's what I want you to understand is that this stuff is real. It's not going to change. It's only going to become more and more severe. That's where they take in this country because this country going to look like the rest of the world. Right? So little Ben Franks, what I want to encourage you to do, dog, is not to get into the spirit of argumentation. Right? Because I ain't never seen you on here before. So I want to really encourage you, man, to watch how you move up in this ecosystem. Okay, let's keep going. Because I've never seen you before on nothing. Right? So we going back before as a USA class structure, right? This is what most people fall at. I don't care what they say on the internet, right? So again, you get a lot of people on the internet that go back and forth, but they fall right here. And all the data shows us that. But they got so much to say on the internet because this is what they think is important. Instead of coming up with an economic goal and trying to figure out how can I move me and my group up this particular ladder, they'll rather argue with me on the internet because they think that's a battle they can win. They can't win that, but they think this is what they've been programmed to do. See what I'm saying? Because they think that's their value. But the majority of people sit in these two lanes, whether they white, black, green, or purple. Right? We got literally millions of white people that's working class, low skilled labor. They don't have no money. They dirt poor. I'm from Florida. I know better. Right? Then you got another group of people, middle class managers, paper pushers. They got a little bit of money. They might make $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year. Right? And then there's range. You do got some working class people that make six figures. That's a fact. Right? But you also have a lot of working class people that don't make nowhere near six figures. I want you to understand that. Right? So the majority of America fits on these two lanes right here. I don't care what they say on the internet. Right? I don't care what they say on the internet. The majority of people fit on them two lanes right there. I don't care what they say on the internet. Okay? And so I would encourage them to try to figure out how to get out of those two levels before they get stuck there and they can't get out. Because in other parts of the world, if you're born working class, you're going to stay right there. If you're lucky enough to become what they call middle class, managers, paper pushers, you're going to stay stuck right there. And let me explain to you what I mean by middle class. Middle class is that you make enough money where you could put money away for your retirement, right? Not that you make enough money to where you just standing still. We got a lot of people in this society making $100 grand a year. They standing still though, because of their lifestyle. But they think they're middle class, but you're not putting nothing away. You're not accumulating assets, right? You just standing still, but you're making money though. So they playing the game of being the biggest consumer. Now I've heard Miss Williams say, what's the brother's name out of Texas? I forgot his name. DJ. Talk about if you don't have 2 million in assets, you're not middle class. I can't argue with that. But I'm not going to make it so strict. I'm going to say, hey, you got enough money to where you can put money away for your retirement, right? But we got a lot of people in this middle class, managers, paper pushers, working class. They think the goal is to be the biggest consumer. They think that's their value. I'm going to out-consume everybody. And you're consuming things and you're accumulating things that have no real value, right? You can't do anything with them after you consume it. They have no, but you think that's the game. So then you're validating people around you on, well, this person's not valid if they can't consume at a certain level, right? That's the problem. This is the programming, right? This is the programming. So what I want you to understand is that most people fit in the two red bars. I don't care what they say on this internet, right? I don't care what they say. And they think the goal is to be the best consumer as opposed to trying to figure out, because the upper levels is the people that got the assets. They're not trying to beat you in consumption. Now, do you got some anomalies? Yes. But the upper levels are the people that got the assets. Let me tell you a quick story before we get up out of here, because I'm from the South. Y'all don't know about the Florida Fairgrounds. It's in Orlando, Florida. It's on the west side, right? So this was a place to where back in the day when we would have the fair, it's called the Florida State Fair. It's a big open like land area. It's acres and acres and acres of land. They would bring the fair out there. They would bring 4-H out there. Some of y'all don't know about 4-H. They're a livestock club. They will bring out the gun shows will come out there. They also have big concerts out there, right? So this was really before the Orlando Arena became real prominent and they started bringing a lot of events to arena. They would do like outside, we call festival shows. I went to high school, right? Not me really, but really a member of my family went to high school with this white kid whose people owned the Florida State Fair. It was owned by his grandfather, okay? They had so much money, it was ridiculous. Because every so often somebody was coming and renting their land. Their money was in, their wealth was in land, right? That was their wealth was in. They owned this big old patch of land that was real attractive to people that want to do events. It's not as attractive now because everything moving down to the arenas, right? But at this one time, that was a spot because the fair came through there every year. The fair was like 2 weeks, right? They had money on top of money. You see in the South, a lot of people where their wealth is in land. They won't necessarily have a whole bunch of money in the bank, but they got a lot of land, right? So eventually what happens is that land becomes attractive, and that's not when they all of a sudden start getting a lot of money. I saw in Orlando, all the orange groves that was owned by farmers, they sold all that to developers. They cashed out. They millionaires now. This was a long time ago, but they cashed out on them orange groves, sold that land to developers so they could build suburbs, right? So even though the orange crop wasn't doing what they wanted to do, because they owned that land, they was able to cash out. They take that money, put that money into the market to go buy them some more land, right? So when you look at that left side, that old money elite, a lot of those people, they own a lot of land. They've had businesses forever. You know what I'm saying? Then you got the Ivy League elite. We're going to break this down more and more as the year goes on, right? But what I want you to understand is that it's just a different way in which they look at the world because of what they currently own. A lot of it is from just owning a whole bunch of assets. Okay, and so that's something I want you to understand. Let me keep going before we get up on out of here. So here's this area out in Naples where they economically segregate Italians. This ain't full of black folks. This ain't full of Latinos, even though Italians are the real Latinos, but I ain't gonna get into that because I don't want to argue with y'all on the internet. Right? But this is where they economically segregate Italians. So if you don't have a certain amount of money, this is where they're gonna put you. And they're gonna just stack you up in there. That's why all the projects and all of that ain't a black thing. That's a class thing. Right? Because in Italy, ask yourself, and you could go do the research, who owns the land in Italy? Who owns the land? See? So if you need somewhere to stay, you got to live how you live. Right? And there's some good videos of people walking through it. They quote unquote shut down, but let me explain something to you. These things are not even supposed to be livable. It's people still living in it because why? Where else they gonna live? They can't afford nowhere else. They just recently, like last year, claimed they was gonna knock them down, but they was up for years. Even they quote unquote was not habitable. People weren't supposed to be in. People still living in them because they're very, very big. Like if you go inside of them, it looks like the inside of a college. It's just not maintained. But look at how they stack them people up just to get them somewhere to stay. That's 14 stories. Imagine having to walk 14 stories to the top. I'm in shape and wouldn't want to do that, especially if I got some groceries. Right? How am I supposed to get a sofa or like a bed up there? It's crazy. And then imagine if there's a fire on the top level. How are you supposed to get out of there? But that's how you got to live because why? You're going to be economically segregated. Right? So then you get all kind of crazy stuff. There's some really good movies about the organized crime in those particular areas. Right? So let's go. Another example of it. That's just a different view of the situation. So to go to show you that, you see the cars, there's people living in this stuff. You see lights on and everything. Right? So it's not abandoned, even though it's supposed to be. Right? Want to encourage you, get an economic goal, create a plan to get to that goal, execute on that goal every day, hit the goal, start at step one. That's what I did. Right? That's what I did. And I didn't start off with a whole bunch of money. I didn't start off with people able to put me in position like they got a business and they just incorporate me into their business. Right? I had downturns. I had to rebuild my whole foundation over again. But I had an economic goal. I created a plan to hit that goal. I executed on that goal. I don't work as fast as everybody else. Right? Some people don't like me because I don't work as fast as maybe they want me to work, but I just stay working. Right? I don't move as fast because I can't do 30 things at one time. I talked to people before. It's very difficult for me to start something. That's just how my brain works. It takes a lot of effort for me to start, but once I get started, I'm good. But it takes a lot of mental energy for me to start stuff. Right? That's just how my brain works, right? But once I get started, I'm good. I don't move as fast as other people. I'm very methodical. I'm very sequential, but I just keep working, right? And so that's what I want to encourage you to do, because if you don't have any of the challenges that I have, I know you can get the job done. You just got to put something together and just say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to stay consistent, and I'm not going to let this other stuff throw me off. I'm not saying that you can't enjoy yourself. I'm not saying that, you can't have fun. But when that stuff becomes your whole life, I'm telling you, you're going to look up. Listen to what I'm telling you. You're going to look up and you're going to end up in a place like this. This is what's coming to America because this is what they done all over Europe. Right? While they telling you how they got these great societies and they make sure everybody got housing, this is the kind of housing they got for you. Right? This is what they done all over Europe. Right? This is it. This is what they done all over Europe. Right? So that's what I'm trying to tell you. A lot of us need to travel internationally because we have this perception that they don't such thing as poor white folks. It's millions of poor white people because they come out of societies where the society was fixed, where if you don't have money, you ain't never going to get no money unless you go into criminality. That's it. All the money locked up at the top, all the land, all the opportunity is locked up at the top in like 10 to 15 families. America was supposed to be a place where that wasn't supposed to go like that, but they going to make it like that too. The whole world going to work that way. Africa, everywhere. Right? So that's what I want you to understand. Get you some goals while you still got time, while the door's still open, because they're going to close this door on a lot of people. Right? Again, you the exit plan for the majority of celebrities and influencers that you follow online. I'm going to tell you that again and again and again. If you bring me somebody that's a celebrity or an influencer, I can look at them for 10 minutes and tell that you just the exit plan for them. Like the dude that was the relationship coach, right? And everything was wrong with men. And he used all them women's money to be a trick. Y'all paid a trick. That's why I don't talk to me about that type of stuff. Because y'all women be paying tricks out here. And you happy to pay a trick if you like how he look. And so you got a trick that's a millionaire off women on the internet. Right? And he got his money. He got his retirement already locked up. Y'all ain't got yours though, but you paid the trick, right? The 2 tricks down in Miami, right? Y'all created a good lifestyle for them, right? A lot of dudes made a good life. You made them dudes rich. They ain't got no plan to make you rich though, but they just entertain y'all good enough. So y'all made them 2 tricks in Miami. Y'all made them rich, right? Y'all be making tricks rich. This crazy. This game crazy. This game on the internet so crazy. I ain't never seen no like this in my life. You couldn't have told me years ago that that's what the internet is. Y'all be making tricks rich and be happy to do it, right? That's the game. See what I'm saying? So I'm telling you, you the exit plan for majority. Most of these people have nothing to teach you. They got no instructions for you. They got no empowerment for you. It's just you gonna make them rich. They call themselves motivational speakers. They just yelling and screaming at y'all. And y'all think that's motivation because y'all raised in a house with a mama that yell and scream all through the house. So y'all can relate to that. I can't relate to that. Right? I can't relate to that at all. But that's what y'all can. So they say I'm a motivational speaker. They just yelling and screaming at y'all like they crazy. And you thinking you done got something. Right? So you they exit plan. Right? The question is, do you got an exit plan? How you gonna get out this thing? And is you working your plan? Right? But the majority of people that y'all dealing with, right? The majority, right, of these celebrities and influencers, right? You they exit plan. You they way they gonna retire. You they way they gonna send their children to college. They got y'all on the hook like that, and they got no education. They got no instructions for y'all. And I be telling people this, and people be fighting me over these other. You don't even know these people like that. But you want to go back and forth with me. I don't even. It is what it is, bro. I just could do what I could do. Right? I realize, like I say, I had the guy to teach me the markets told me, he said, this program is so efficient that most people will never get free of the program. They will not. They will not get free. No matter what you tell them, no matter what you show them, they're going to hold on to that program because that's how good that program is. It's one of the best programs in the world. He was in the military the whole 9 hours. He told me these people got a program. It's so good. He said to blow your mind how good this program is. These people got. That's how they run the world with this program. It's not a physical program. It's a mental program, right? So that's what I want you to understand. That's really what's going on out here. That's what they got for you, right? This is what they got for you, economic segregation, right? And then it's going to be detrimental to your children, to your descendants, because they're going to be raised in a very, very bad environment. I guarantee you, ain't no hospital nowhere near this area. You get hurt up in there, it'll probably take 2 hours to get to the hospital. Because I live in the metro, and you go on the south side, there's no real medical footprint. They don't care. You ain't gonna get no resources, right? You're gonna get what you're gonna get. And you just stay out there and y'all do what y'all do, but y'all make sure y'all don't come to the nice side of the town. Or do I have it? You can get this kind of environment, right? Because this is the same city. This is Naples also. This is what I'm trying to say. This is the economic segregation. That's one part of it. This is the other part of it. See? But when you living out here, you still got TikTok, still got YouTube, still got Twitter, still got Instagram, still got pornography. No, you get access to drugs, right? They got the drugs out there, that drug line out there, cold out there, right? Still got the drugs, still got the sex. That ain't going nowhere. So you got all that stuff that you want to keep you distracted from the fact that you living like this, right? And your life just a hamster wheel. See what I'm saying? And the people that made their money off of you, the influencers, the celebrities, and the people that you paid and the tricks that you broke yourself for, they're going to be living here off your money. Right? And you're going to be feeling good that they living like that off your bread. I don't get it. But where I'm from, we don't pay tricks. Right? But, you know, everybody move different. Everybody raised different. But that ain't what we do. I couldn't believe, when I said they paying a trick like that, it is what it is. It is what it is, dog. They was happy to do it too. And he's sitting on millions off them chicks. And now they finna pay his wife. It is what it is. So that's all we're going to talk about. Appreciate everybody for coming through. Right? Y'all stay easy. We're going to read some of these comments and then we're going to get up on out of here. So Ray Gun, man, appreciate $2 super chat. Pascal, man, appreciate the $4.99 super chat. Amika, appreciate the $8.75. Right. Terrence, man, appreciate the $4.99 super chat. Estangel, man, appreciate the $2, bro. Darkman Jeff, man, appreciate the $5. A Moore, man, so you the sponsor of the show. Appreciate the $19.99 super sticker. Pascal, man, appreciate the $4.99. I come from Europe. It's a fixed society. Okay, I thought you was a European. I ain't know. I want to make no presumptions. I come from Europe. It's a fixed society. You can have a good grade in school. Your parent, yeah. I mean, but this is how people don't realize this. They don't get it because in America, we're not exposed to it. America is a bubble. I've been saying this to Americans for years. America is a bubble, and we don't realize America's a bubble. Americans really think the rest of the world work like America. The rest of the world is nothing like America, right? It's nothing like that. And so I read a lot of business stuff and I look at a lot of stuff like based on families, and you're 100% correct, right? A lot of European society is fixed. Where you're born is where you're going to stay. It's very hard to get out. And it's like that in a lot of other parts of the world. And that's how they're going to have America. This meritocracy stuff is false. They don't want a meritocracy. They want the group that they want to get everything and they want to compete with other groups, but it's not going to be no meritocracy because it's never been a meritocracy. So I appreciate the comment, bro. But yeah, Europe is definitely like that. Central and South America is definitely like that. Mexico's definitely like that. You born poor in Mexico, I don't know what you're supposed to do if you can't play soccer. And let's come to America, right? It's just not a lot going on. Jarrell, man, appreciate the 999 super sticker, right? So I appreciate you giving that context. Truth Bearer says we take the upward mobility we have in U.S. for granted. We do, and we don't go after it. That's what a lot of people say when they say they come to America. Americans are lazy because they know what it looks like to have no upward mobility. People from Africa know what it looks like to have no upward mobility, no matter how smart you are. That's why they say that Americans are lazy, because they realize we don't see it. And we also think it's always going to be there. And they're from places where it does not exist, right? It's a reason why like certain people in Africa got all the money. It don't have a lot to do with their ability. It's where they were born at. You see certain tribes get favored over other tribes, things of that nature. You see this in parts of Asia, right? So you definitely see this in Central South America. You go to Central South America, certain families that's connected to Spain, they got everything, right? The indigenous people in those part of the world, they have very little a lot of times. So this is how this stuff goes. So I agree with you, but they won't be taking it for granted too much longer. Let's get to the end of the decade. Mr. CMB, a lot of them Eastern Europe is broke when I went. Definitely. They still trying to recover from being Soviet satellites. They never recover from that. Most of them have not. Then you had wars and all kind of crazy stuff. It's just rough. So take home, but I feel you, but would you pay 25 cents for it? Minimum 25 cents for the content that you consume. So if you're consuming content online, would you pay 25 cents or more for the content? Right? Yeah, Erica, Naples, yeah, they crazy. It's another crazy spot. That place in Paris where they had riots like 20 years ago, they burnt the whole thing down. It's people living out there. And that's very isolated. And people still living out there. It's wild. This idea that like Europe got it all figured out, man, please. It's so much poverty in Europe. It's crazy. And it's always been a lot of poverty in Europe. That's why they had all those revolutions way, way, way back in the day. People was dirt poor. Erica says, my grandpa died. My grandpa died. The other farmers made sure my grandma kept her land, show how to file documents and whatnot. Grandma then went past 8th grade. You definitely got to try to hold on to that land. It's real big, especially in the South. Especially in the South. Appreciate it, Darkman Jeff. Rob says, it's hard for the market to crash. Too many fail safes. Yeah, even if the market crashes, it's going to go back up. Right? Even if it crashes, it crashed during COVID. It went right back up. Jerome Powell says if the market crashes, we're going to give you liquidity. So that's our fail safe. He let you know if the market crashes, we're going to come in with liquidity. We'll put confidence back in the market. They're going to run this market back up. It's a cycle. So, that's why I keep trying to tell people we've been programmed to not even participate in certain things. I don't care if you buy one share of stock every time you get paid. That's better than doing nothing. It's also better than just spending your money as a consumer and don't have nothing to show. I just believe that. Yes, one stock it's not gonna make you wealthy, but it's better than doing nothing and just consuming because you're building out a habit, right? But this system again and this consumerism is so deep. People literally would judge you if you're not a big time consumer. Like I said, if I promoted consumption and flossing, I would make way more money off my audience because that's what they want to see out of people, right? They don't want to see me with no t-shirt on, right? They don't want to see that. You know, they want to see me with, crazy jewelry. That's what they like. People like that type of stuff. And they willing to pay that. Or they willing to pay tricks. Either one. They willing to pay celebrities and tricks. That's what they willing to pay. That's the game we in. Miss Finney's 91 says East Side has seen owner-occupied homes increase from 19% in 2019 to 60% as of this year. The value of homes has also grown from median sale price of $29,000 to $70,000. Most definitely. Most definitely. Erica says, why YouTube Black top 8 channels at YouTube Black events are all Nigerian foreign Black. Yeah. I see a lot of like Nigerian, Kenyan channels doing reactions to like what Black people do inside the United States. It's very unusual to me, but it is what it is. But I see a lot of that, especially like a lot of Kenyans, but it's also some Nigerians doing like reaction channels of what Americans got going on. I don't get it, but it is what it is. Yeah, Pontiac's Rebellion. I forgot about that. I got to remember that. Ant Dog say, when a lady and my kids sleep, I get busy. Do you keep doing what you're doing? So Ramel says in the UK, you got to pay for a TV license even to get the basic channels. Yeah, I wouldn't even have a TV. I don't own a TV right now today. I haven't owned a TV in years, right? For real. Ray Gun said that's what people want to celebrity package. Definitely, especially in this city, Ray Gun. You know that. You know that, bro. I'll be down there Midtown, man. Them they be riding drop Benzes, drop BMWs. Like they flossing out there. That's what they want to see. But dog, I never been high profile like that. That's just not my personality. I like to be low pro. I like to look like I ain't got $5 in my pocket. Because if that scare people off, that's good. But that's how I drive a 20-something-year-old car that's missing a hubcap, bro. You know what I'm saying? So nobody don't bother me. And I'm behind mob tent. So nobody don't bother me. But I come out of a different type of situation, but I like to look like I don't have nothing going on, man. I'll just be real low key with it. Monique Hall says that's what happens to service providers after providing free services to help people. The people you help will go elsewhere once you finally begin charging, even if it's a nominal fee. Yeah, because Ms. Monique, they've been conditioned to think they're going to get it for free. But it's been going on for so long. We've created so much of a free society. I remember when this didn't exist, to where people would just look for where they can get the free at. And once you really start charging them, they're offended by it. And something I want a lot of our people to understand is that we have to have some kind of way to improve our economic situation, either through some type of collective work, something, because things are not going to get less economically for us, right? And it's something that no political party has ever pushed to really try to help us because they don't want to deal with the politics behind it, but it's real because everybody just thinks it's going to come for free, and it's not. It's really not. And that's why this whole areas of this particular metro where they don't have certain services, because people are not going to put them down there because people can't pay for them, but people still need the services though. I'm gonna do a video on that too, especially how it impacts the dental side of the game, the health side of the game. Caddy Williams say Tanzania, a handful of East Indian families run the country. Yeah, it go like that, bro. It really does. So economic segregation, like the sci-fi novel movie Logan's Run, sci-fi movies like In Time and Elysium. Yeah, definitely. Also Star Wars, I think it's Coruscant, where the rich people live up high and the poor people live down on the ground, right? But it's economic segregation. I talked about that in certain videos. Erica says, literally what a real estate man told me, focus on family build. Yeah, that's what I was told. You know, so I went against his teachings doing what I'm doing right now. But he told me, man, don't even worry about these folks. Like I said, I just felt convicted because, like I said, I know. And I was like, I gotta get other people. And I've been able to help a lot of other people. But yeah, he told me, he said, man, people are too lost. He told me that. He says, people are so lost. He says they'll never figure it out to save their life. So it's very unfortunate. So Mr. CMB, man, appreciate the $9.99 super chat. Yeah, definitely. That's real. That's real for real, bro. All right, man. So y'all be easy. Appreciate y'all coming out. Have a safe holiday. Enjoy yourself. If not, make sure you have a safe weekend. Stay safe. Talk to you later.